This is my Subaru Forester 2017. It was clean yesterday, got rained on, and now it's filthy again. So we're going to proceed with a rinseless wash using ONR. And I'm dropping in a few of my Costco Kirkland microfiber towels. Now I am pre-treating the surface with Wolfgang Uber Rinseless Wash. And this is at a dilution of 4 ounces per gallon. And I go through this stuff so fast that I mix up a gallon at a time just because it's simpler than always having to get the concentrate out, adding 1 ounce to a 32-ounce bottle, and then filling it up. So mix up a gallon. It's purchased in a concentrated form, so it's economical enough that I don't have to be, real stingy with it, and I can add a lot of lubrication to the surface. So I've sprayed down the hood. I'm using my microfiber towels, gently swiping from kind of like back to front, and at this point I'm picking up a little bit of tree fallout on there, so I'm kind of inspecting the towel after each wipe. Nice and gentle, no pressure whatsoever. Let the solution do the work. If you're new to a rinseless wash, this is one way to do it using microfiber towels, and you can also use the Optimum Big Red Sponge. I'll explain my reasons for doing it this way in just a minute here. So inspecting the towels, if I get to a point where that corner or that edge of the towel is too dirty, I will flip it over to a clean side. And finishing up the hood. And switching to a Cobra Guzzler towel. This is a style of towel that I prefer for drying. It is a waffle weave microfiber towel. And a quick note on the methods of rinseless washing. When the car is this dirty, I do not like to dunk the sponge back into the solution and get it dirty. So I prefer, when it's this dirty and I'm using rinseless method, I like to use multiple microfiber towels. So I dunk them in the solution, wring them out slightly, and when that towel has been used up, it goes in the laundry and I grab a fresh towel. So dirty towels are never put back into the solution. So this is my first time ever using Optimum Opti-Seal, which is a spray-on sealant. And I'm using the dry method here as compared to what's going to come later. So as you know, I've dried the hood and I'm spraying the sealant onto the dry hood, spreading it around with the included foam applicator. And first time using the product, I'm sure that I would get better with it in time. And they say if you're getting residue or streaking, you're using way too much product. It's supposed to be wipe on, walk away. You don't have to go back over it and remove the residue with a separate towel. Well, I found that as I finished up the hood, I was getting a lot of streaking and a lot of product left behind, and I was having to sort of revisit that. You see, I'm doing quite a few sprays. I think there should only be 1 or 2 sprays per hood, but I just was having trouble getting the product spread out. It seemed to kind of want to stick to where I put it, and I was not able to put a spray onto a particular area and then spread it out really far. So I got a little frustrated with that, and I tried a different approach for the rest of the car, which is using Opti-Seal as a drying aid. So here I think I'm using way too much product, and the technique I used for the rest of the car worked much, much better. And again, my first time using it, I probably would get better. Here I am returning to all those spots I can see where there's residual product, streaking, smearing, and doing my best to kind of spread those out. So kind of a clumsy technique on my part. I didn't care for the dry application. Returning very briefly to the idea of different rinseless wash techniques, there's 2 schools of thought. One is using the big red sponge, wringing it out, applying the ONR to the panel, returning to that bucket. Well, in the case with a car this dirty, you're returning a lot of dirt to the ONR bucket. So I tend to go overboard and use sort of a 2-bucket method when I use that technique. So I will have a bucket of clean water, in which I will wring out the big red sponge, then dunk it back in the ONR. And so that seems a little bit clumsy, and there's still a chance of reintroducing dirt onto the car. The idea of using the multiple microfiber towels means that I'm using a clean towel, all 4 sides of the towel, discarding it, and then using a clean towel each time. There's no dirty towels ever being returned to the solution. And back to the windshield. We're never careless, but slightly less diligent when it comes to the windshield. We're less likely to put, visible scratches in there. So if there is residue or dead bugs or tree sap or whatever, we can be a little more aggressive with our technique there. So applying to the windshield and kind of the cleaning. You see I'm cleaning the cowl area there. That seems to attract a lot of dirt. Making sure to clean under the wiper area. And here I'm using method number 2 of applying Opti-Seal, and that is spraying the Opti-Seal onto the panel, or in this case, half of the windshield. Using my drying towel, I apply it right where I sprayed, and then I spread out the Opti-Seal across that area, sort of applying it evenly. So again, using my Cobra towel, and the Opti-Seal seems to work just fine on the glass. It even gives it a little bit of that glass sealing effect, kind of the Rain-X water beading. And of course, repeat on the right-hand side. Spray the Opti-Seal onto the windshield. Place the towel right over the spot where we sprayed the sealant and spread it around thoroughly, and it flashes off very nicely. As the towel starts to get wet, because of course we're picking up all that ONR that's on the surface, we eventually will have to kind of pick a dry side of the towel. It eventually will get less effective at spreading it around. And onto the roof. I apologize for the poor angle on this. I'm not able to get the camera much higher to give a really good perspective on that. But the process is the same. I'm going to pre-treat with my Wolfgang Uber Rinseless spray. Be very generous with it. And I'm going to speed this up just a little bit here. Again, a clean microfiber towel. And thankfully I'm just tall enough to be able to reach from both sides, cover the entire roof there, so I don't have to get any kind of step ladder out. So any taller I would have to. So quick wipe down, getting the rails, and boom, coming along with the Opti-Seal and my drying towel. I kind of split the roof line up into, I think, 4 panels. So on each side, a spray at the front, a spray at the back. It does not take a lot of Opti-Seal to do the job. Again, I'm probably diluting it a little bit by adding it to a surface that has ONR on it, but it's so much easier to spread around that I think it's worth it. And now we're starting on the right-hand side of the car. I'm just kind of working my way around, pre-spraying with the, again, Wolfgang Uber Rinseless wash. And following up with a wipe down. I'm sorry for the harsh lighting angles. I'm in a garage that has really poor lighting, so as I move around the car, I'm sort of dragging my light behind me, so it's kind of an unnaturally bright light on the spot that I'm working on. Ideally, we'd have a garage with lots of overhead lighting, so that for something like a rinseless wash, you really wouldn't have to have any kind of special lighting or stand lights that you have to move around. So again, spray your Opti-Seal right in the middle of that front fender and spread it around. And you can feel how slick it is. It's really good stuff. And for this rinseless wash, I'm ignoring the wheels and tires. Strictly paint and glass, kind of making quick work out of it. This technique I'm using in this video is not necessarily exactly how I would do it. A little bit of this is just to make it easier to film. There's nothing terribly wrong with how I'm doing it here. But in terms of lighting, I kind of wanted to do a door. So I would do the glass and then the door, and then I would do the rear door, the glass, and then the door panel. from top to bottom. When I do this for real, I would typically probably do the fender and then do all the glass, all that glass that's visible there. The front, the rear, and then that very back window. And then I would sort of do maybe the top half of those doors where the spots are not quite as dirty, keep the towel a little cleaner, and then I would come back and sort of, kind of do that bottom half of the door panels. So saving the dirtiest part of the job for, the rest of that towel. Nothing wrong with the technique how I'm doing here, just be aware how dirty that wash towel is getting, the yellow towels. And if you're picking up dirt there at the bottom, like I saw on that trim, turn to a clean side of the towel. In my opinion, if you're doing a rinseless wash correctly with ONR, your drying towel, in this case my green towel, my Guzzler, Cobra Guzzler waffle weave towel, the drying towel should not be getting that dirty. And that does kind of depend on how dirty the car is, how you've pre-treated it, and your technique. But in my opinion, the wash towel, the one you see right there, should be picking up the dirt. Those should be getting dirty. When you come along behind it with the drying towel should be relatively clean. And just use good common sense when you are washing a panel, like here, kind of doing a back and forth, top to bottom. And I like to always shoot a little further past a door panel with my washing media. And then when I come behind it with my drying towel, I sort of stop at the edge of that door so that I don't want my drying towel moving into territory that hasn't been washed, if that makes sense. I don't want to overrun the clean area. So in other words, if I was doing that back door, I would go 5 inches past the door with my wash towel, my yellow towel, and then when I come along with my drying towel, I would stop well short of that. I would stop right where the door ends. And as you get around the car, you're going to hit every spot, but I just don't want to use my dry towel on a dirty surface of the car. I think that's just a sure way to cause some scratches and to get your drying towel really dirty. And finishing up my Opti-Seal, this is on the very back window. Making sure to get in all the corners there. Avoid water spots and water dripping. So there's my last shot there on the rear, very rear of the car, the fender there. And remember, work clean, and when it comes to drying, work dry. So I think I had to return to some of those windows and get all the streaks off of there, just to make sure that was all good. On the Subaru, this rear hatch area gets dirtier than almost anything else. Depending on the exact weather conditions and a few other variables, sometimes the roof and the hood can be clean, and even the top half of the car on the side can be clean, and this area will be just filthy. In this case, it was pretty dirty. The glass specifically was dirty, and all the way down there. So I wanted to be very careful and take my time. So other than the front grille and bumper area, this has the most detail, takes the most patience to kind of get that little space above the license plate, up there where the camera is, around the emblems, and around that rear step bumper there, which obviously needs some attention. I think I need some trim restore on that. It's kind of faded a little bit. But there's just a lot of detail in the back, and wanting to make sure you're getting all the corners. And come along with the Opti-Seal, spread it out, be a little more aggressive on the glass. I'm not worried about scratching it, so make sure you kind of wipe it in thoroughly. And just like with the washing, when it comes to the drying, this rear hatch area just has a lot of details, a lot of nooks and crannies to get into. It's not like a fender where you can just spray it and be done, so you kind of have to navigate around everything. So it does take a little bit longer to dry that rear area there, and as needed, flip around, get a nice dry side again. That's half the battle, is just working clean, making sure you have a clean side of your wash towel and your drying towel. And when your drying towel gets a little bit saturated, because again, you're not just picking up Opti-Seal, you are picking up the ONR residue. As it gets wet, you're going to become less effective at drying. You're going to get streaks, so just, as needed, flip to a dry side. And it takes a little patience to clean all those out. Again, that rear step bumper has gotten a little gray. It's not that nice rich black like when it's brand new. So the next thing I'm going to be doing on this car is some solution finish. I'll be making a video on that. Kind of spoils the looks of it when that's kind of dingy. And finally, coming along and just picking up some random streaks. I had left a little bit of residue along the top there. Again, takes a little patience. There's a lot of places for it to hide. So as we continue around the car, we've already seen a fender and a door and a window. There's my little helper there. So I'm not going to make you watch this whole thing in real time. Once we get back into it here, I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. We've seen the process, not a whole lot new to see here. Clean side of the towel, or a clean towel if needed. Apply the ONR, spray the Opti-Seal, once per panel. You'll get a feel for how that stuff spreads out, but by no means should you be wasting a lot of product. One spray really does go a long way, so don't think you have to put a lot on there like it's an old-fashioned wax or something. When using it as a drying aid, you'll hardly see it. It's just going to spread out and flash and vanish nicely. So rear door, same process. Wipe it down. Constantly monitor that. When it's dirty, flip to a clean side or get a new towel. And you'll develop a sense for when that thing is dirty. You'll kind of feel the dirt, or you'll just know, when you need to check it more often because you're working on the bottom of the car. Don't be afraid to use a new towel. That's cheap insurance to be using a fresh side of the towel. And we're still careful when we dry, because there could still be a dirt left behind, but if we're doing it right, the drying towel should be coming out pretty clean. So again, on this car, being as I got driven in the rain and a lot of dirt had stuck to it, I pretty much pre-treated the entire car, meaning I sprayed it down with my Wolfgang solution. And certainly if you have any questions about what I've been talking about here, I didn't want to make this video any longer than it was. Feel free to ask. Just that Opti-Seal really does add kind of a nice warm glow to the car. It was definitely noticeable. Again, first time using it and very happy with it. So what I'm trying to learn myself is when and how often the Opti-Seal should be used as a drying aid versus like a regular spray wax. Because in the past I've used a lot of spray wax, different brands, as a drying aid. And so this is new to me. So finishing up the front left fender. The car just looked great when it was done. So now the front area, that picks up a lot of dirt, especially that kind of grill area with all the little openings in there. So spray it down generously, as well as having the ONR on your cleaning towel. And I clean all the way to the bottom, all that painted surface. And a lot of little cutouts there to make sure we're getting clean. And I could get out a leaf blower or some kind of blower to clean all those little pockets out, but they can be cleaned with a regular drying towel. You just kind of poke the towel in all the little openings and get it dried out. And finally finishing up the front here. Looking really good finally. That place right there seems to attract a lot of moisture. Takes kind of repeated passes to get everything really dry. Here's the final product. Looking very, very good. Again, I'm sorry for the harsh lighting. I do not have very good lighting in that garage, so this is an attempt to show the entire outside of the car while carrying a light in one hand and a camera in the other. So it's going to show every detail, but it's a little bit harsh. It's not very natural looking. But overall, pretty pleased. This should only take about 15 minutes. It took me a lot longer just because of filming and setting up. But the end result is worth it.